So what's your team looking like? What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who never knows best. And in today's video, you see the title, you see the thumbnail, your eyes do not deceive you. A brand new Avatar the Last Airbender multiplayer fighting game has just been announced. Now, I gotta say, I'm just as shocked by this, I'm just as caught off guard by this as probably all of you, because this came out of completely nowhere. I did not see an Avatar fighting game coming. Like, I don't know what spawned this. I don't know what brought this on. But I'm gonna tell you one thing, right? I don't know about y'all, but me personally, now this is just me personally speaking, this is just my opinion. Y'all tell me, y'all let me know if I'm crazy, if I'm wilding or whatever. But out of all the cartoons on Nickelodeon, Avatar the Last Airbender, probably my favorite Nickelodeon cartoon of all time, which makes a lot of sense because on Cartoon Network, my favorite cartoon over there is Teen Titans. And so those being like my favorites on either channel, they kind of add up. They both inspired by anime. One of those anime being Fully Cooley, my favorite anime of all time, you know, say had a little bit of influence. But yeah, man, I actually like Avatar the Last Airbender quite a bit. So suffice to say, when I seen this, it piqued my interest, and let's go ahead and talk a little bit about it. So if I swap on over to my monitor, you can see Avatar the Last Airbender multiplayer fighting video game in the works. A multiplayer fighting video game based on Nickelodeon's beloved animated series Avatar the Last Airbender, soon to be a live action Netflix show, is in the works. And actually, there's a lot of controversy right now around that live action. I don't really know. I ain't looked into it too much, but it's some things going on that have some people upset. And well, this game may or may not have people excited or upset. Depends. We're going to talk about it. There's a lot to actually discuss, even though we have little information about the game. But the game is set at Maximum Entertainment in a new pact with Paramount Game Studio. Maximum revealed the new title during its presentation of its 2024 lineup and promotion of the unification of its publishing labels, Maximum Games, Modus Games, Just for Games, and Merge Games, as well as development division Modus Studios under the Maximum Entertainment banner. Now, there are other titles that they've announced in their little video or whatever, and they didn't really give a whole lot of other information about the Avatar fighting game, other than the fact that early access will begin sometime in 2025, which is obviously a ways away. We've only just started 2024. Although that being said, I don't know about y'all once again, but for me, I feel like 2024 is kind of flying by already, because the fact that we're halfway through February is kind of crazy to me, but it is what it is. That being said, there's a lot of apprehension being met with this game right now with this announcement. Obviously, we have very, very little information, but I'm seeing several things that are going around. And one of the things that people are most notably talking about is the fact that they hope that this game is not an arena fighter. And it kind of sucks in my opinion, because I feel like there's like this really negative stigma and like this really negative connotation associated with the genre of arena fighters, when in reality, or at least to me, arena fighters themselves are not the issue. It's more so the fact that developers and companies keep putting out really shitty ones. It's ironic too, because everybody hates arena fighters, but we all know for a fact Sparking Zero is undoubtedly going to be an arena fighter, and everybody's really excited about that game. But that just further proves my point that it's like, you know, the Tenkaichi games back in the day, some of the Storm games, some of them, you know what I'm saying, and even Hinokami Chronicles to some extent, like those are pretty good games, or at the very least, those games have a very good skeleton, a really good like foundation or base that could be used and built upon to create something that I think is really cool and really fun. And I had plenty of fun with those games, but like they could be even better. It's just the fact that nobody's really taken that and tried to improve upon it, because the effort, the passion, the love, the money, something's missing there in that equation. But I don't think arena fighters themselves necessarily always have to be bad. I think we just keep getting bad ones. But with that being said, I don't think that this game's going to end up being an arena fighter, and here's why. So obviously, upon reading this article, I started looking around on the internet trying to find more information about it, about Maximum Entertainment, who's making this, who's developing it, who's publishing, whatever, and just seeing what I could dig up. And I found another article that has some comments, right? And one of the comments is something I want to read to you, because it's actually pretty insightful and gives some information that I didn't previously have. So if we swap back over to the monitor, you can see this comes from some random member named Sylvie, but they said, doing a bit of research, Maximum Entertainment also has a publishing arm called Modus Games. I think Maximum's website has games published by Modus listed. Between those two, they're developing an experimental 2v2 as in 4-player fighter called Diesel Legacy, and acquired and then subsequently killed Main 6, the dev for Them's Fighting Herds. Diesel Legacy looks decently good, for all I know might play well, but it seems like this type of game that stands no chance at carving out a niche for itself in the exceedingly oversaturated Western indie fighting game market. I ain't gonna lie to y'all though, I didn't realize that the Western indie fighting game market was an oversaturated thing. I can't really name you too many oversaturated Western indie fighting games, because I ain't really hip like that. That being said, Them's Fighting Herds, I believe they likely helped to some degree after the acquisition by helping port it to consoles and adding new characters, but apparently they thought Them's Fighting Herds was some big property that they could turn into a wildly successful fighting game IP, rather than the niche but relatively solid fan base it actually had. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what Them's Fighting Herds is, it's actually a fighting game that's basically for My Little Pony. Now, okay. Say what you will about that, think what you will, however you feel about MLP. I'm not a fan. I didn't play the game, right? But from what I've heard and from what I've seen, because I've seen gameplay, I've watched people stream the game, I've seen the game at tournaments, right? It's a pretty well-made game. The people who played it liked it quite a lot. It has rollback netcode, a robust training mode. It's got the multiplayer. Like it was people liked it. People liked it quite a lot, actually. And from my understanding, it had people that worked on Skullgirls on the developer team for that game. And as you guys know, Skullgirls, or as you may or may not know, Skullgirls is a very beloved game that has a really hardcore fan base that has been getting pushed for years now and continues to keep going strong. Now, Skullgirls is relevant for this conversation that we're going to continue to have moving forward, but we'll circle back around to that in just a moment. My point is, regardless of what you think about My Little Pony and that as a fighting game, the game itself was pretty well made, and actually the people who played it liked it quite a lot. Unfortunately, it seems that when that company was acquired, it kind of got mishandled and they thought that they could profit off of it by making a season pass and squeezing out some money for DLC. We gonna get to that. But following up, this person says, I don't know, the dev/publisher evidently has interest in fighting games and even experience with them. So I think that if you want an actual fighting game and not some game no slop pushed out to capitalize on a license, it seems like you have a good chance of getting what you want, at least at first. But I feel like fighting games are in general becoming increasingly oversaturated. I disagree. By the time this game comes out, Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 will be on their second, third years of support. Who cares? And probably sold at a discount, plus potentially a free-to-play option in Project L. Don't think that matters. This game is almost, so this part, like I kind of want to talk about, because when I read this, it gave me some more things that I kind of wanted to address. But I feel like this is just a really pessimistic and negative like view or like perspective that they have. But we'll finish reading it and then I'll address it. This game is almost assuredly will almost assuredly have a smaller budget than those games and will either look like shit or come out with a maximum of 12 characters and anemic single player content. I don't see how it can realistically compete with those games, and at best it'll have some niche community of Avatar fans, which TFH already has shown is probably not enough to support the type of game they want to make. Now, here's the thing, right? First and foremost, I don't think that trying to compare these games like a Street Fighter 6 or Tekken is like the right thing to do, because unless your name is Mortal Kombat, no fighting game is competing with them. Unless you want to throw in Smash Brothers, which I wouldn't, because I feel like that's its own separate thing entirely. No other fighting game is really like in competition with like Street Fighter and Tekken outside of Mortal Kombat. Like maybe like it's Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, like, and I guess Dragon Ball FighterZ was the exception to the rule because it blew up the way that it did. But like most other games are not getting the sales, they're not getting that type of marketing, they're not gonna have nearly as many players, they're just not as mainstream. Like these are series that have like real skin in the game, you know what I'm saying? Like the big three, like the legacy games in the fighting game community are Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Tekken. And now, of course, there's a multitude of other games that exist in the FGC, right, that have tons of players all over the world playing all different types of games, but like realistically those are the biggest three. And I mean that more from just like a competitive standpoint, right? I'm not talking about, oh, but this Guilty Gear had more entrants than Mortal Kombat. No, that's not what I mean. You gotta think about the sales figures and the casual player base and everything like that included. Like those are the big three. Technically, I'm holding up 6 fingers, but mind your business. Now, with that being said, this whole idea of like carving out your own niche or whatever, I don't think it matters. I don't really think that's important or relevant. Like Avatar the Last Airbender is a big enough IP and franchise that's beloved by millions of people all over the world, that if the game is any good, if it's halfway decent, it's gonna get picked up and played by plenty of people. Whether or not they stick with it depends on the business practices that follow and whether or not the game is any good, but only time will tell. Also, when it comes to like anemic single player content and like the roster size, like that's something that can like be improved over time with DLC, which very well may be part of their business plan considering what they did with them fighting herds. I don't really know. Obviously there's cause for concern here. There's questions to be asked, and there's reasons to be apprehensive and reluctant, even more so that we'll get on to in just a moment. But one thing that I will say is that I think no matter what, the game's probably going to get some players, right? It's an Avatar video game. And I think one of people's biggest concerns is that it's going to be an arena fighter, and I don't think that it will be, and I'm not the only one who thinks that, and I'll show you why based on some tweets. So if we jump on over to Twitter and take a look at Sonic Fox's account, I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with who Sonic Fox is, very prolific fighting game player. They say, doing some research, I want to point out to everyone that Maximum Games has a publishing arm which involves Modus Gaming. You know, the folks that now own Them's Fighting Herds, work on Diesel Legacy, and has Redacted as one of their main programmers. Now, we're not going to get too deep into the details of Redacted. This is a situation that I'm aware of because I was around in the FGC and on Twitter and everything when this was going down. I've been following Sonic for a while. So all I will say is the name Mike Z. That's Mike Z. If you want to look into that for yourself, then you can. Feel free to Google that on your own time. But with that being said, they go on to say it'll likely be a 2D fighting game. I'll give it a shot since said person doesn't make the whole company, but it is suspect. And here's some articles confirming what I'm saying. And these are actually the articles that I had as well. And then they go on to say that it probably means that Avatar game will be a 2D fighting game, but it'll also involve a canceled former Skullgirls dev. Again, that's Mike and then the letter Z. Look into that on your own time. I just don't want to get into all that right now. Super bittersweet information, but I'll give everything a chance when it involves more than just X person, as I don't think they're reflective as a whole on said company, just sore personal feelings. Again, their own Sonic Fox had a connection to this person. That person wasn't a very good person. They had a falling out. They're no longer friends. You can look into that on your own time. The important thing to note here is that because of the person who is working on it and the developers who are working on it, it's most likely not going to be an arena fighter. Now that might put that, that question or concern at ease, but then there's other questions or concerns to have in regards to like their business practices and the character of the people who are working on it, which is an entirely different conversation. And of course, is more than perfectly reasonable to not want to support it for that reason if you have feelings about that. But that's completely and entirely up to you. Now, there is one more tweet that I actually do want to show you guys that offers some similar sentiments and some more insight on this information or on this this situation. And that comes from a user by the name of Jodamide, and this reads as follows: the company behind the Avatar fighting game is the same company that bought Main 6, only to announce a season pass for them's fighting herds and fire every single dev right after it was done, leaving the single player incomplete. Please do not expect anything of them. So again, I'm just pointing out what's being said on the internet. You're free to interpret this however you want. I'm just here to offer the message and a little bit of my own commentary. They also go on to reply themselves, correction, only 3 Main 6 team members remain at Modus/Maximum Games. And then there's one more reply down here that I actually want to read. And it comes from this person who has a screenshot of this comment, and it reads, hold on, let's go ahead and open this in a new tab and then zoom into it. So the comment reads: how are we supposed to trust you to deliver a fighting game when you consistently abandoned fighting game projects and fired your best talent? Now, I don't know if this is something they have a track record of doing multiple times. Like, I understand it kind of what happened with them's fighting herds. If this happened with multiple projects, that's news to me. I don't really know a whole lot about that. That's something I might look back into more after this video. But also, if anybody watching this video has more information that they can offer on this, feel free to do so in the comments down below and teach us all something going on. For those who are unaware, this company bought and subsequently fired almost the entire team behind the beloved indie fighting game Them's Fighting Herds, which is unfortunate because the people being behind Them's Fighting Herds being the people who I thought, or rather, let me run that back. I was at first excited to hear about this game when I looked more into it, because I was like, oh, so it's the people from TFH. Like, that was a good game. Like people really liked the game that played that, so it's probably going to be a pretty good one, right? But apparently the same people who worked on that are not necessarily going to be the ones working on Avatar, so who knows? They couldn't finish the season pass that players already bought. They also took over the TFH community Discord server and stripped mods of all permissions. The new admin sent one message and never looked at the server again. No moderation meant trolls could join and start posting, freely. So if you followed the link to the server from the E10 plus rated game, that's what you would see. They abandoned their other fighting game, God of Rock, after one disappointing update, leaving it an unfinished ghost town of a game. It will never get the quality of life patch that every God of Rock player in the entire world has asked for. I didn't know about that, because I remember God of Rock coming out and it looked pretty cool, and I heard good things about it, but I never checked it out for myself. I didn't even realize this was the same people. At best, this Avatar the Last Airbender fighting game will be unfinished, glitchy, and get abandoned before it's fixed. It will lack quality of life, and by the time it releases, the outsourced dev team that they underpaid will have already been laid off. That is consistently the standard at Maximum Entertainment. And that's news to me, because originally when this got announced, right, I was like, oh shit, Avatar fighting game, like I'm all ears. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be an arena fighter, it's going to be ass, da 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 da. And of course, I immediately went to the internet trying to find out more information about the game. And well, the more I looked into it, the less excited I got and the more disappointed I got, because I was like, damn, so it's probably not going to be an arena fighter. And it might seem like a really cool game at first, but it may or may not get the support or the proper quality of life, or just have the right people behind it that it needs to. And that's really unfortunate to hear. Now, obviously, you can take all this with a grain of salt, I suppose. I mean, I'm going to continue monitoring the situation myself and seeing what becomes of it and everything like that. But it's a really weird situation. There's I don't know if controversy is the word, but there's just like a really weird atmosphere around this company and this game. But it seems like people who have prior experience with these developers and this company and publisher and everything like that are not looking forward to this and are not excited, because they're basically like, hey, we've been down this road before. We already know how y'all is. You ain't gonna get me again. And that's completely understandable. So I went from apprehensive to like relieved to back to being apprehensive and even more concerned than before, because now it's not about the quality of the game necessarily, or at least the genre of the game. It's more so like everything else at this point. So make of it what you will. But I do, if nothing else, I do think it is fun to fantasize about an Avatar the Last Airbender fighting game and what it could be like and what type of characters I would play and everything like that. Because I know if it's a single player game, I'd be looking like at Azula or Toph, maybe Katara. And then also you got to wonder whether or not they're going to add in like Korra characters as DLC, or if they'd be in the base roster. Although considering how things are looking in this environment, they probably would exclude them from the base roster and try to sell them to you as DLC. Yeah, man, I don't know. Toph and Azula are probably top 2 on my list of characters that I would want to play in an Avatar fighting game, but that's just me personally. But what about you guys? And this also kind of reminds me of like, because we talk about like getting, you know, these video games for series all the time, right? And one of the series that I thought would be really cool is a series that I mentioned earlier in Teen Titans. And actually, y'all know what? How many of y'all was around for Teen Titan Battle Blitz, bro? Tell me what y'all know about Teen Titan Battle Blitz. If you don't know what Teen Titans Battle Blitz was, that was a game that was on the Cartoon Network website that you could play. I don't know if it was like a flash game or what, but I played that a lot as a kid, and it's probably been gone for a very long time. But let me go ahead and pull this up on the monitor real quick and show y'all. I don't know how many of y'all was around for this, but this right here, Teen Titans Battle Blitz, yeah, boy, yeah, what that is, boy, that what that is, boy. I to this day, I would still go crazy for a Teen Titans fighting game. That would be sick. And like sure, you have like the main 5, and then like there's a lot of characters you could throw in a Teen Titans fighting game. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Red X, Slade, a lot more other villains and everything like that, like different versions of certain characters. But yeah, we could fantasize about that all day long. Actually, as a matter of fact, oh, yo, Blackfire as well. I think I made a tweet about this a while back. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm like mad sidetracked now, but I'm pretty sure I made a tweet about this a while back, and I was talking about like what my team would be. And now I want to see if I can find that tweet real quick. Yeah, here it is. I found it, right? So it was like, somebody was like, imagine an Arxis Teen Titans 3v3 fighting game, which of course it was Lithro, by the way. We fantasized about Arxis making basically any cartoon or anime ever into a 3v3 fighting game like Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I was like, y'all don't want no smoke with the Red X Raven Blackfire team, bro. I promise y'all not rocking with it. Y'all not messing with me, boy. But yeah, that's me getting way off topic and sidetracked. Going back to Avatar, I mean, I'll be keeping up with it. I'll be seeing what comes out of it. I'm going to be looking more into this company and these business practices and everything like that, and making a decision sometime in the future about whether this is something that I want to support or not. But like I said, it's fun to think about. It's fun to fantasize about. I'm surprised that it's a thing, but it's a thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all the awesome content I put on bringing you. And with all that being said, this is pretty much off today. And remember, nothing can happen until you swing the bat. Later.